بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. During the time of the second generation, we've been speaking about the second generation, the Tabi'een, and we mentioned probably 2 or 3 of them. Do you remember their names? Sa'id ibn Jubair, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab, and Mujahid. Okay? We will mention another 2 or 3 names today. But before we mention some more of their exegests, during their era and their time, you know, in general, we have 2 main traditions when it comes to interpreting this book, the Holy Quran. We have 2 main approaches. One approach is called transition approach. What does transition mean?
Going from one thing to another.
Depending on passages, on what you hear. On what you hear. So, I hear from you, you hear from Lily, Lily hears from Mazuki, Mazuki from Nadim, and then Nadim, he sees the Prophet. And he says, I heard it from the Prophet. So this is called in Arabic an-naql. An-naql. Transition. Okay? So based on stories that we pass them down to each other. Naql. The second approach is what? Does not depend on transmissions and stories. It depends on your brain. This is how you understand the Quran. Some exegetes, they use both. Both are needed. Both are important. We cannot say this one is more important than that or that one is more important than this. Both are needed and you have to study both because they complement each other. They are not against each other. They complement each other. They integrate each other. However, during the era of the Tabi'een, the second generation, this one started to flourish because before that it was only this one. Only this one. What they hear. Chain of narrators. Okay? Now they started to develop. We are witnessing the emergence and the development of this approach. The rational approach. What does rational approach mean? What does it mean?
Meaning they use their knowledge and sciences and criteria to do ijtihad essentially.
They use their brain. They think about this. They reflect. They look at it. Does this make sense or not? Does this interpretation make sense or it doesn't? Because which one follows which? Religion follows reason or reason follows religion? In the school of Ahlul Bayt, religion follows reason. In the Ash'arite tradition and this group, reason follows religion. But we say no, religion follows reason. Reason cannot be wrong. The sound reason, not any reason, not the reason of someone individual, no. The aggregate reason of the society, the sound reason, the healthy reason cannot be wrong, cannot go wrong. So reason, it takes precedence over this. Because what are the dangers of this approach, the first approach?
Inaccuracy.
Exactly. It could involve inaccuracies. Either the person himself is volunteering to be inaccurate for some political reasons, some tribal reasons, some, or he's not volunteering. He's an old man. Sometimes he gets confused. Sometimes he mishears. Sometimes he puts his own interpretation and he says, when you ask him, he says, because I knew this is what is in heart. What is in his heart, I knew. So he didn't hear it from him. He assumed that this man was saying this and this and that. So these are the dangers. Yes, Dr. Ali.
I was going to say one time they did an experiment where they put people in like a big room and they just whispered the line in the first person and told to pass it down. By the time they got to the end, it was totally different.
Exactly. Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally different story. The Oscar was last night. And I believe there are many movies who deserve to win. But they have a group of judges. This is their taste. They have 10 judges, they see the movie, and each one writes something, and then they put them together and they take the majority vote. Doesn't mean that this is really accurate 100%. Each person has a taste. Someone says, well, this movie is terrible. Someone says, this is the most beautiful movie. So we have different judgments. Sometimes these judgments contribute into shaping an opinion. But when we come to the rational approach, which is non-bias, should be non-bias, it should be educated, it should be objective, it should be God-fearing, then most likely it reaches the right conclusion. This is why my friends, when it comes to the foundations of religion and the fundamentals of religion, we have to use this approach, not that one. I don't believe God is one because this book is telling me God is one. No. Because my reason is telling me this book is supporting my reason. This book comes to support my reason. But I discover the oneness of God through this. I discover the existence of God, that God does exist through this. And then this one, the naql, comes to support, to consolidate, to make it stronger. This is why in Tawheed, in the Day of Judgment, these are rational conclusions. What do we call rational conclusions? We call them, it has a name in fiqh, and we use it sometimes in fiqh. Al-mustaqillat al-aqliya. Al-mustaqillat. Al-aqliya, it means rational conclusions. Mustaqillat means that the brain itself, he can find out about them. Even if you don't have a book, the brain. But what a brain? The healthy brain, the educated brain, the sound brain, the unbiased brain, the uncontaminated brain. Not someone who drinks whiskey and then he comes and shows me the way. I can't depend on him because he's drunk. This guy is drunk. When you compromise your reason, then you cannot have sound judgment. But if the reason is healthy, intact and healthy, then it can show you the way. So this one started to fade off a little bit. And this one emerged during the era of Tabi'een. And therefore we had the emergence of Mufassirin, exegetes, who started to bring this up. And once there is a conflict, my friends, between this and this, who they would choose. Which one? Once there is a conflict, clash between this and this, which one they would choose? This one. This one. Example of that in the Quran. Example of that is in chapter Al-Imran. Chapter 3, verse 41. Chapter 3. I'm just giving one example, or maybe two examples, of how this one and that one sometimes they clash. So which one we use? This one takes precedence. Chapter 4. Surah Al-Imran. Chapter 3, sorry. Surah Al-Imran 41. 41. Okay. Yes. قال رب اجعل لي آية. There is a prophet of the community of the Israelites. This is before Islam. This story is in Palestine. That prophet is mentioned in the Bible. He's a biblical prophet too. His name in the Bible is Zechariah. Zechariah, and the Muslims call him Zechariah. The difference in pronunciation. He did not have children. He didn't have children. And he was old, getting old, and his wife was getting old, and he was worried if he dies, he has no children to succeed him. He's left, he's going to be gone. Nobody even would remember him because he has no children. So he said to his Lord, قال رب اجعل لي آية. God said to him, listen, Zechariah, I promise you I will give you a son, and that son's name is what in the Bible? Yahya, John the Baptist. John the Baptist also is the first cousin of Jesus, because their mothers are sisters. The mother of Jesus, Mary, with the mother of John are sisters. And John the Baptist, he came before Jesus, and he told the Israelites about the coming of Jesus. So the father, before the birth of John, the father was asking God, oh God, please give me a son. Give me someone just to continue my path. God said to him, okay, I listened to your prayers. I will give you a son. So Zechariah said, how do I know when my wife is going to get conceived? When? Because she's old. She's old. How do I know that she now conceived with a baby? The answer is one answer, but it has two understandings, two interpretations. One is this transition, and one rational. God says to him, قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس ثلاثة أيام إلا رمزا واذكر ربك كثيرا وسبح بالعشي والإبكار. God said to him that the sign for you that your wife has just conceived with John is that you don't speak to people for 3 days, except with ramza. Ramz means ishara, signs. This approach says that God made him mute for 3 days. So physically he could not speak. God made him mute. So he was trying to speak, but he couldn't. His mouth was sealed. This one. But this one says, no. Not that God sealed his mouth and he did not allow him to speak. God asked him that when we tell you your wife, we're going to tell you your wife is going to be conceived, or she just conceived, okay, she became pregnant, then don't speak to people for 3 days except with signs, and the only thing you do, glorify your Lord. just to glorify Him. You know glorification, sanctification? Mizuki. Part of our worshipping is that even if we are not doing formal prayers, we walk and we sanctify God, we praise God, praising Him. We remember God. This is a form of worship. We believe it gets us closer to God if we always remember Him. Okay? Likewise, if you always remember money, always money, 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 money. You think about money, money. Then you fall in love with money and you become a monetary person. You see nothing but money. If you think of food, 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 sushi, 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 you always think of sushi, then you want always to eat sushi, okay? The same thing. God says if you keep remembering me, you will be God conscious. You will keep me in your mind so you don't do something wrong. You don't do something wrong. So there are a conflict between two interpretations. At-tafsir al-naqli says that he became mute. He couldn't speak. Not by choice.
Do you have actual hadith that says that?
Yeah, they have stories. Stories from, they ascribe it to earlier generations. The second, it says no. No. Not that God made him mute. God gave him the choice and asked him, don't speak to people for 3 days except sanctification and glorification. So which one do you prefer? The first or the second?
Isn't that a say also a debate of coercion versus free will? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But unfortunately, when you come to this approach, you find people like Tabari. Tabari, this is a heavyweight champion of the Quran. Mufassir, Tabari, and Qurtubi. Al-Tabari and Al-Qurtubi. They say that God punished him and therefore made him mute.
Punished him for what reason?
Because he said this to the angels. He shared this secret with the angels, so God decided to seal his mouth for 3 days. Something that does not make sense. Doesn't make sense. Why it doesn't make sense? If someone who God chose to be his confidant, to be his messenger, to be a role model, he cannot keep a secret, then what about us, the ordinary people?
What secret?
God said to him, revealed to him, that don't speak to anyone about this. So he shared it, they say, this first group, they say he shared the secret with angels, therefore God made him mute for 3 days.
The secret of getting a son?
Yes, yeah. So this is an example, my friends. This is an example that there were and there are other examples, of course, in the Quran where there is clash between the approach of stories, which could entail fabrications, falsifications, and this one, which also not every time it could be correct 100%. We are not saying. But if these two clash with each other, then we have to bring this. Because this is what the Prophet says. The Prophet says, whatever balagakum reaches you of me, that I said such and said, think about it rationally. If it makes sense, and if it goes with this book, then accept it. But if it does not make sense, then refuse it. Don't accept it. Because reason plays a central role in the Islamic Sharia. Reason. We use reason. And therefore, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa. Another example, which is highly debated between the schools, the traditions. Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa. God has
Sits on his throne.
yes.
It means like he's actually like resting, right? Or,
No, he's sitting.
Istawa, sitting.
you say that long, sorry, right?
It's 25 Surah Taha. 25 Surah Taha. طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى الرحمن على العرش استوى. God even the translation, look at this translation. This is generic translation. The most merciful, Ar-Rahman, who is above the throne, established. Established means sits above the throne. So there is one which depends on naql, stories that God has a throne, physical throne, just like the throne of the Emperor of Japan. Have you seen his throne? Does he have a throne or he just have a simple chair?
What is wrong?
Throne, it means the seat where the emperor sit on it. The seat, huge seat. The king, the emperor sits on that. This is called a throne. Does he have a throne or not?
I think he had.
Yeah.
Because we.
But they showed him the other day with Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia receiving him in a very humble and simple room to show him that this is our way of life. Not like you in Saudi Arabia, you put, So the people who believe in naql, they transmit the hadith that God sits physically on his throne. He has a throne, and then they give the description of his throne. The width, the high, it has four paye,
Legs.
legs, 4 legs. And when he sits, it makes noises. Believe me, my friends. I'm not joking here. When he sits, goes back to sit, just like my chair, 20 years old. It makes noises. Squeezes, what they call them?
Squeaks.
Squeaks. Okay? They say it makes squeaks. God's throne. Okay? But this is unacceptable. What does a throne mean? Let me ask you. Because you have to be smart. You are studying here, you have to think. Use your reason. If the throne does not mean physical, does not mean this, the chair, then what does it mean?
It's a
Parable of what? It's an example of what, the throne?
power rank.
Exactly. Power. He has the power. When you say he's sitting on this chair, it means he's in control. He has the power. This is why sometimes we say in these countries people fight for the seat. What seat? There is no physical seat. They fight for the office. It means for the power, for the leadership, for the presidency, for the... Okay? And this is, we know it by this. And also, we support it by naql, which is accurate and authentic. Not just by this. There are many narrations from the Prophet himself, and the Imams. It says God does not have a physical throne. His throne is spiritual. It means his position. It means he's the superpower. It means he is in control. Not that he has a throne which is made of wood and it makes noises. No. And this tradition started to emerge more and more. When people use their brain, they can have better understanding of the Quran when they use their brain. But if they don't use their brain, they might end up somewhere wrong, in the wrong direction. Now, let's come to 2 or 3 personalities who, and what does yad mean before we go to that one? Yadullah fawqa aydihim. The hand of God is above their hand. Hand of God. Of God above their hands. Yadullah fawqa aydihim. Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. إن الذين يبايعونك إنما يبايعون الله يد الله فوق أيديهم. Those who give pledge to you and make allegiance with you, bay'ah, allegiance, put their hands in your hand, the hand of God is above their hands. What does that mean? The hand of God above our hands? What does that mean? No. What does hand mean? Hand, you use hand for what?
Power.
Power. Power. Don't we say in English, he has the upper hand? He has the upper hand. He has more power. So the power of God. The power of God. Yadullah, it means the power of God is above them. So if they want to go back on their promise, don't worry about them. O Prophet, don't worry about them because God is on your side. So even if they pay allegiance and then they withdraw later on, you don't worry about them. Because the ayah says after, فَمَنْ نَكَثَ فَإِنَّمَا يَنْكُثُ. Nakatha, it means what? After giving bay'ah, he changes his mind. Nakithin, don't we have nakithin in the history? They break up the promise. They violate the promise. So you have to read the verse, the whole verse, not just the word. The whole verse, and then you know the real meaning. Once you use your brain, you get to the right meaning. Whereas other traditions, they say God has an arm. He has an arm, he has fingers, and his arm is 60 meters, tall, and they give description of his physical arm. But God is not like Buddha. Buddha has a statue. Okay, in Japan, I've been to temples in Japan. Buddha has a statue. And people sometimes they touch him for a blessing. God, our God, does not have a statue. Because he's not a physical structure. He doesn't have physical structure. What's wrong with having physical structure? If God has physical structure, what's wrong with that?
They can't be everywhere.
Exactly. Limitation. He will be constrained. This is one. This is one problem. So, if he has physical structure, he is in this room, it's impossible for him to be elsewhere. Impossible. The same God. We can have another God elsewhere, but the same God cannot be elsewhere. So this is one problem. What is the second problem with having physical structure?
No different than us. Matter.
Say it one at a time.
Different than us. And he's like us.
Weakness or
Yeah, he has certain
Time.
weaknesses, exactly.
If you put in time or matter.
No, something else, which is mentioned in the Quran many times.
Okay.
No. If he has physical structure, then we're going to have another problem. Exactly. Needs. When you have physical structure, then you're going to develop needs. The first need is a place. I have a physical practice, so I have to occupy a space. Specific space. whereas God occupies the whole universe. This book says, wherever you go, فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you go, to any space you go, to any corner, you're going to see God there. Not seeing Him physically, but God is going to be there. So if God has physical structure, then He needs a space. Okay? What else He needs if He has physical structure?
Sustenance.
Sustenance. He needs food, He needs a drink, He needs to rest, He needs to sleep. Whereas God, in chapter 2, verse 255, chapter 2, verse 255, God neither 255. God neither sleeps, no sleep takes over Him, no slumber. He doesn't even close His eyes to rest. He doesn't. Because He does not have a structure. Once you put Him into structure, physical structure, He's going to have hundreds of needs. Hundreds of needs. Hundreds of needs. Look at us. Look at us. How much needs we have. How much need? You need the clothing, you need to rest, you need to use the bathroom, you need to eat, you need to drink, you need to sleep, you need to speak.
Also from a rational perspective, the definition of God as all creator, as soon as you say something about Him, like you are putting Him
Limits, exactly.
So you are contradicting your definition of
Yes. One more thing, Mizuki, because you're going to go back to Japan, you have to know something about Islam too. The Lord of this religion, you have to know. God is self-subsisting. Subsist. What does self-subsisting mean?
You didn't have parents.
Exactly. Self-subsisting, it means he's not dependent on anything and he's free of needs. Can we become self-subsisting?
No.
I'm asking you. Can you become self-subsisting?
No.
No, because you need mommy, you need your mother, you need your father's money, you need to get married when you go back to Japan, okay? You need to have children, you need to have friends. You can't be self-subsisting. But God needs none of these. He's self-subsisting. God does not receive sustenance from anywhere, so He can live and He can continue. He doesn't need. These are fundamental principles of monotheism. Monotheism means knowing God, means the ID of God, the identification of God. It's called monotheism in Islam, monotheism. Okay, so let's go now to, so why Jesus cannot be God?
Same reason.
He's not self-subsisting. He depends on God.
What is your religion, if I may ask? Buddhist?
Actually, I don't have.
Ah, you don't have religion. Okay. So, Jesus, we accept Him as a messenger of God, but not the Son of God, neither God Himself. Jesus is divinely inspired, but He's not divine. Divine means anything belongs to God, is divine. So Jesus is divinely inspired, meaning He has been taught by God, but He's not God Himself. He's not God. Okay. Now, let's go to number, how many we had? 3 or 4? We have 2 Sa'id and we have Mujahid. And who else we had? Do you remember? Muhammad. What Muhammad? Did we study Muhammad?
No.
No, we didn't study him. No, Mujahid, no, nothing.
Just listen
No.
to it.
Yeah, just, yeah. So now we go to Tawus. Tawus. Tawus ibn Kisan. And who lived from 33 to 106. 33, 106 H. 33, 106. He is originally from where? Originally, his forefathers. He is originally from Persia. But then he migrated to where? Where was he living and born? His ancestors are from Persia. He was in Yemen. And by the way, Yemen at that time was one of the oases for learning and for knowledge and for loyalty to Islam. And who was the first missionary who went to Yemen during the time of the Prophet to invite them to Islam?
Imam Ali?
Imam Ali. Imam Ali was the very first person that the Prophet dispatched him to go to Yemen and invite them to Islam. And he spent several months there. And this man was born and raised there, and he was known for his servitude to God, dedication to God, worshipping God, to the extent that they write about him, authors, that he was mustajabud da'wah. What does mustajabud da'wah mean? His prayers would be accepted. So if people comes to him and say, please pray for us, when he prays for people, God would accept his prayers. And he was the student of whom? Who raised him? We are speaking about whose students in this series? Abdullah ibn Abbas. So he was the student of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Where was the school of Abdullah ibn Abbas? Where was it? Mecca. Okay.
Sorry.
It was in Mecca. So this man also was in Mecca and he was his student. And also he was the close companion of the fourth Imam. Who is the fourth Imam? Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. And he was well known for defying the government, politically defying the government. What government was at that time during his era? Look at the Bani Umayyas. So he would defy them. He would not fear them. One day, Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik. Hisham was caliph. He became caliph. Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik. He came to pilgrimage to Mecca. And this man, Tawus, he was in Mecca. Okay? So he went to visit Hisham. So he went with his shoes on. He didn't take off his shoes. And then he sat next to the caliph. And he did not address him by his title, because the title of the caliph at that time was Amirul Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithfuls. They are corrupt and tyrants, but they call themselves Amirul Mu'mineen, commander of faithfuls. So Hisham was tyrant and he was very furious. He turned to him and he said, how come you come to me with your shoes on? You don't take them off outside, and then you sit next to me? Why do you do this? Aren't you afraid of me? So people were silent. People were very intimidated and afraid. He said to him, I'll answer you. First of all, you are not greater than God. We come to the mosque here in Mecca and we have the shoes. We can have the shoes on and we can do the tawaf. You know that? When we circumambulate around the house of God, we can wear the shoes in the house of God. You don't have to take off your shoes. Second, I would not call you Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why? The commander of the faithfuls. I didn't call you on purpose. Why? Why I did not call you on purpose? Look at his courage. Because not all the believers accept you to be their leader. So I would lie if I say, oh, the leader of the believers, the commander of the believers, I'll be lying, because many of them, they don't accept you. They don't even recognize you as being their leader. And if you are angry that the third thing Hisham told him, he told him, why did you call me Hisham? At least put a nickname for me, Abu Fulan. Why do you call me with my first name? This is very rude. He said to him, you are not greater than a prophet. God calls the prophets by their name. Ya Yahya, Ya Isa. God, when He speaks to prophets, He called them by their first name in the Quran. Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitaba biquwwa. Ya Isa, inni mutawaffik wa rafi'uka ilay. So are you greater than the prophets? You are not greater than the prophets. And then last, number 4, you are angry that I sat next to you. If you want to know what Imam Ali said, Imam Ali said, إذا أردت أن تنظر إلى رجل من أهل النار فانظر إلى رجل جالس وحوله قوم قيام. I had mercy on you when I sat next to you. Because Imam Ali says, if you want to see an example of a person who is going to receive damnation and go to hellfire, look at that person who always sits on a chair while people are standing in front of him. He doesn't allow them to sit. Because he becomes taghut, he becomes arrogant. In Islam, either you sit with the people at the same floor, if they sit at the floor, or if you want to sit on a chair, they have to sit with you, equal to you. This is one of the manners of our religion. And our Prophet, of course. Our Prophet and our Imams. So, he was very forceful in his mission. And he has many other stories, but just to let you know, because sometimes you're going to come across this name. In the tafsir, you will see his name a lot, Tawus. Because Tawus, he met 50 of the companions of the Prophet in Mecca. He's from the second generation, but at least he met 50 of the first generation. Okay, let's go to one more. And that one more is Akrama, Mawla ibn Abbas. Akrama, Mawla ibn Abbas. And he lived from 25 until 105. 25 until 105 Hijri. His name is Akrama. Akrama. Not akramaha. Akrama. There is a difference between akrama. Akrama means he honored, and akrama. Yeah. Someone was telling me, he is Lebanese. He said, you know why Imam Mahdi is not coming back? Because of the Iranians. I said, how? He said, because the Iranians always say, Ajjalallah faraja. They say, Ajjal, not Ajjal. Ajjal postponed. Ajjal postponed. Why? Ajjal expedite. See the difference? Ajjal means expedite. But they can't say Ajjal. They say Ajjal Allah faraja. May God postpone his. So akrama is ayn. Akrama, not akrama, because there is a difference. Difference in pronunciation. La ilaha illallah. I always say to them, don't say la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. But it doesn't work. For 20 years, believe me. 20 years I'm trying, doesn't work. Okay, this man also, where do you think he is from? This man. First of all, what's the meaning of Mawla? What's the meaning of Mawla?
Multiple meanings, right?
Uh-huh.
Could be friend or
Here in this context.
Friend.
friend, friend or
Fan.
Ibn Abbas could be leader of him, but
I'm very sincere friend.
follow.
He purchased it and he released him.
Oh, he's actually was literally a slave.
Hmm? And he's from North Africa. Originally, he's Barbar. Berbers are in nowadays in Algeria and Morocco. This area belongs to the Berber. They are not Arabs. Originally, they are not Arabs. They are North African natives called Berber. So he's from there. So he was a slave, and then, do you remember Ibn Abbas became a governor of somewhere? Where was it? Don't tell me Pennsylvania or... During the time of Imam Ali, he appointed him a governor of somewhere. Basra, exactly. Because Basra was, tumultuous region. So Imam Ali wanted someone that he can trust him and someone who is firm. So while he was in Basra as a governor, someone gave this to him as a gift. So he accepted it and then he released him, vindicated him. He released him from bondage, from being a slave, and then he made him his student. He taught him. He taught him. But then if you read the history today, if you investigate about this man, you find that he has been defamed and accused with two things. Number one, with being a Kharijite or adopting the view of the Kharijites. Kharijites are a group of the Muslims who rejected Imam Ali, the fourth caliph. And then eventually they killed Imam Ali. They killed the fourth caliph. So many people believe that he adopted their views. The second accusation, that he lies sometimes. When it comes to tafsir, he fabricates things of his own, not of his teacher Ibn Abbas. He authors, he fabricates, he invents. This man that we studying his book, he's a very knowledgeable man. He was in the seminary, he died 30 years ago. I know him personally. I know this man personally. He's originally from Karbala. And he's a friend of my dad. They were, in their childhood, they were, classmates. They were a classmate. But he's very knowledgeable, this man. When it comes to tafsir, he's very knowledgeable. He made investigation and he says, these two accusations are not right. The reason for them is envy, hasad. Many people, they were jealous of him because yesterday he was a slave. He was sold in the market and today he becomes a scholar. So some people could not accept that. It was too much for them. So they accused him wrongly and justly of lying and being Kharijites.
Sayyid,
Yes,
haven't the Kharijites kind of died down by this time?
we still have. In Libya, we still have the remnants of Kharijites. They believe in their philosophy and their ideology. We do have, yeah. And also in Oman. Oman, which is part of the Arabian Peninsula. Oman is below Emirates now. It's right to the east of Yemen. East of Yemen and to the south of Emirates. So in Oman and in Libya, we do still have remnants of the Kharijites. Okay? So, he believes, this author, that Akrama was clean. And he was wrongly accused. And he was one of the firm followers of the family of the Prophet after the Prophet. And he is the one, among others, who say that when 3333 came, what is 3333? What is 33? Chapter 33 is what chapter?
Was that with the purification of the tablet?
Ahzab. And verse 33. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Allah, God is determined to purify the family of the Prophet. Purify them physically and morally. They say Akrama was one of the people who said that the Prophet would stand at the door of Ali and Fatima for 6 months in the morning, and he would loudly read this verse. So everybody knows that what is meant in this verse, Ahlul Bayt, are those people who live in this house. Ali, Fatima, Hassan, and Hussein. So, this is the second person. Okay? And then, one of the things that he believed in, Akrama believed in, and he used to preach, you know, in Islam, one of the differences between Shias and Sunnis is the way they perform ablution. What is ablution? What is ablution? Wudu. What is wudu? We wash ourselves before prayers. We clean ourselves. We wash the face, the arms, okay? And then the Prophet says, Al-wudu ghaslatan wa mashatan. 2 washes and 2 wipes. So you wash your face and your arms, these are 2, and you wipe your head and your feet, another 2. So Akrama was one of the people who said, always used to say, and imagine that time, there were a few people who could dare to defy the regime. Because when were the washing of the feet introduced in the Sunni tradition? One. During what time? No. Uthman. I put it in my book, Shia Islam. If you go up, when I say wiping, when you investigate history, you find out that Uthman was the one who introduced, before him, it was wiping. Uthman, during his time, the 3rd caliph, he said, let's stop wiping and wash, because it is more important than the feet to be washed than being wiped. So it wasn't easy for someone to go against the mainstream. Easy or not easy? In Saudi Arabia today, can a scholar, philosopher, university professor go against the mainstream in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Someone did a tweet, he's jailed for 5 years. Now he's jailed. It was in the news 2 days ago. Just for one tweet. One tweet. He didn't like something about the government. Put him in jail 5 years for a tweet. So it's not easy. It's not easy. These regimes are dictatorships. So if you speak something that the leader doesn't like, the president, the king, they put you in jail. Okay? You go to jail. This is the difference between Japan and China. Japan, you are free to speak your mind. Yeah? You can criticize the emperor. But next door, China, you go red carpet. They take you on red carpet to the jail if you criticize the president. And he just became for life, you know that. They changed the constitution. He became president. He can nominate himself for third term, fourth, fifth, 20th. He's learning democracy of the Arabs, Arabic countries, alhamdulillah. So it was very dangerous. You jeopardize, you risk your life if you go against the mainstream. But Akrama was one of those who always emphasized that wudu, you have to wipe and you don't wash. And Akramata an ibn Abbas an Rasulullah. So the hadith of his tafsir and Akrama and relates to Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas relates to the Prophet. Now whether Ibn Abbas heard it immediately from the Prophet or Imam Ali was in the middle, we don't know. Could be Imam Ali in the middle. That al-wudu'u ghaslatani wa mashatan. Wudu' consists of 4 parts, 2 washings, which is face and arms, and 2 wiping, which is head and feet. Okay. وأخرج البيهقي. Bayhaqi is also one of the transmitters of hadith. His name is Bayhaqi. And he has a book called As-Sunan al-Kubra. As-Sunan al-Kubra lil-Bayhaqi. His book is Sunan al-Kubra. It's one of the well-respected books of hadith in the Sunni tradition. He narrates in his book أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إنها لا تتم صلاة أحدكم حتى يسبغ الوضوء كما أمره الله به. The prayers of one of you would not be accepted or completed unless he or she would do their wudu properly. And then he explains what is the meaning of properly. He says يغسل وجهه ويديه إلى المرفق, washes his face and his arms. ويمسح رأسه ورجليه إلى الكعبين, and wipes his head and his feet up. This is Ka'bain, this is Ka'b. So from here to there, up to here. This is Sunni narrator, huh? And can you imagine after putting this hadith in his book, still they wash their feet? Can you imagine? Why did Uthman change this?
Did he also add like washing inside ears and there's some other stuff?
Yeah, because they say the ear is part of the face. They believe that the ear is part of the face. But why did he wash? Why did he order people to wash? Change them from wiping into washing?
He thought he's better. He thought he knows better than the Prophet that washing is better.
Not only that, there is a political reason. Umar was popular. Why? Because Umar had strong personality. Strong personality does not mean he was courageous, because he was number 1 in fleeing. Whenever there is a fight, he's number 1. So he was not courageous. He was number 1 in fleeing. He would win the marathon. If there is a marathon, he was fast runner. Believe me, I am not trying to bring him down, but this is reality. Okay, if you read about him, He was number one in disappearing from the battlefield. Number one. But he had strong personality. And he...
He was like a bully.
Exactly. He believed in violence. He believed in enforcing things upon people, even if it takes using violence. Therefore, he changed many things. He had the guts. Abu Bakr was conservative. Besides, Abu Bakr was only for 2 years. He didn't get a chance to do reforms or changes. Omar was 12 years. It's a big time. So he had enough time to change, and he had the guts for that. He didn't fear anyone. He didn't fear anyone. Uthman was a low profile. Uthman did not have the same personality like Umar. He didn't. Therefore, he wanted to make himself popular. Therefore, he has to say something. If he doesn't say something, what is the value? I have a teacher 30 years ago. The teacher was telling me that during his youth, this story could go to 70 years ago. You know, when they used the bathroom, they had aftabe. Huh? What do we call it? Watering can. Still they use it. In some countries they use it. They don't have running water, so they have to fill it and then. So at the entrance of the bathroom, they put one here, one there. So people, if it is empty, they fill it with water and then go inside the bathroom and they, clean themselves. He said we had a gatekeeper of the masjid, the mosque. Gatekeeper, he works there. Khadim, servant. When you put the water can here, he says, no, not here, there. He removes it from here and he put it there. It doesn't make any difference. But why he's doing that? To say, I am the president, I am here. Huh? I'm in control. So Uthman was like that. He wanted to say, I'm in control. So he has to change things. If he doesn't change, he will go unnoticed. Nobody is going to mention him because he didn't do anything. So he had to introduce new things. And part of it was washing the feet rather than wiping it. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.